They believe in eating dessert before dinner and wearing the bikini. They're allergic to labels, authority, and cheap shoes. Currently, they're launching themselves through life being the good time, bold enough to take risks and inquisitively asking, what's next? They hail from New Hampshire, but they could be anywhere dressed in cute clothes. If they had to share a tombstone, it would read, "Curiosity killed these cats." Your hosts, Lisa and Robyn, on the mic.
Welcome to Lisa and Robyn on the mic. You are listening on WSMN, 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. You can watch, stream, and listen on WSMN.live, as well as YouTube and Spotify. And I cannot hear myself. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Perfect.
Hr1. Happy Halloween, everyone. It is 10/10. Make a wish.
Is it 10/10? Awesome.
It is 10/10.
Can you do any spooky voices? Like that
Just
kind?
my normal voice. Well, that one, that laugh, was that spooky?
Yeah, I'm terrible at impersonations, but I want to do them anyways.
Yes. So we are Ginger and Mary Ann this morning, and I have to say you are crushing Ginger.
And you are crushing Marianne. So we're hoping for the SS Minnow little round.
Yes.
What is that thing called that you fling from the boat?
Life preserver?
Life preserver.
Or life,
no, that's
life
perfect.
ring?
Life preserver is perfect. And we wanted that too. And I went to buy the wig this morning at the Halloween store. And I was explaining to them I was going to be Ginger, and then I went in their bathroom and put on the hair, and then they go, "Okay, now I believe it," because before I was just a girl in a dress.
Well, I looked around, and we have a curly wig, and we have a short brown one, but it was shorter. It was shorter, and I couldn't do the pigtails, so I was like, whatever.
What I think is really great is the outfit is absolutely perfect for you.
Thank you.
And I do think when you see us together, it's like, oh, okay.
Yes, now I get it.
Now I get it. Because I said you might need to see me with my Marianne. That might be my accessory.
So I've never worn these boots before. I've had them. And I'm like, I got to get these. But I'm walking. I've got both cats, trying to catch the tassels that are swinging. And I kept picking myself up and wait, I felt like my shoe was untied because you feel it.
Yes.
You feel the
movement.
strings. Yes.
You feel the movement of it.
Yes.
So this is a beautiful day for trick-or-treating for all the kids.
Yes.
And I remember not loving Halloween as a kid because it was always wear a costume and then put your jacket on over the costume.
Yes.
And we didn't have the costumes that they have today. We had, some kind of plastic over tent that was something, and then we had a plastic mask that only had a hole big enough that you could always want to stick your tongue through, and
just
you never
the tip
could.
of your tongue would go through it. And a lot of times, you keep doing it, and then you got these little sore spots on
But you couldn't stop doing it because you're like, what is this? Nom, 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 nom. What is that?
And the thing is, I don't like anything.
The condensation back on yourself.
Breathing dragon breath. Be a good facial. That dewy glow.
Steam yourself. Yeah, so I always used to joke that and the same thing I feel about bike week. The weather's always such that I have a cute outfit, bike outfit, but I have to wear John's jacket over it.
Yes.
And I want to touch this hair.
Yes.
So I don't have straight hair.
hair.
If you've seen me, I have no straight hair. So when I have straight hair, I can't stop touching it. So when I go to the hairdresser, she blow dries it straight, and I keep touching it. I keep molesting it, just fingering
gorgeous,
it.
darling. It's gorgeous.
and I could be when I right now I want to be a spy. I want to.
Yes.
I have different hair.
Yes.
I just want to go.
You need some funky glasses and some go-go boots.
That would have been perfect as the funky glasses.
Yes. We need to do Austin Powers. They're the girls.
Yes.
Get those go-go boots.
So that's next Halloween. Because
Yes.
I don't dress up all the time, but now that we have the radio show, I can definitely at least dress up on the radio show.
Absolutely. We just make our own day.
What is everyone else doing? Send us your costumes, your kids' costumes on social media. Tag us so we can see what everyone looks like.
Yes, I posted this morning and definitely want some feedback this morning. Would love to see your costumes, chiming in and see what you guys do for Halloween.
Yeah, it's beautiful out. It's going to be 72 and sunny in our area.
I know it was 69 when I got out of the car, and I was like, man,
I know, no
it's a
jacket.
perfect day. I remember, like, well, I grew up trick or treating in Virginia, so it was usually pretty warm. It wasn't until I moved up here that you had to wear, I would just get a bigger costume for the kids, and they would wear their snowsuit under the costume, and like little Oompa Loompas, wiggling down the road. But we've had a few, and I actually was looking back on my memories. I think it was 3 years ago we had snow, like a dusting,
Oh,
because I still had flowers blooming. I think they were like marigolds, or they were,
mums.
no, it's like a yellow daisy, like a yellow flower that
Like
I
a
still had.
Black-eyed Susan?
No, it was in a pot. It was on my deck, and I still had like, I don't think it was mums.
I love just guessing like it's a game show.
I know. I still had. I know now you're like pressuring. Like now I want to go back and look, but I think that was a couple of days ago. But anyway, we've had some snow, and I was like, man, tonight is the perfect night for trick or treating. I think the best time, like I liked trick or treating best. I mean, we had fun. In Virginia, we never had a curfew. It was like when the candy ran out, you just turned off your porch light.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we had to be in by like 9:30 or 10. Now it's like 6 to 8, or it starts, regimented. Has it always been like that up here?
No, no. I probably stopped trick-or-treating as a teenager, and I remember before that I would only be allowed to go to so many streets, so it took as long as it took me to hit the houses in this 1 or 2 block radius. And then there would be certain houses you wouldn't go to, even if they had food, and then you'd always be mad at the apples.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you're like, my parents are never going to let me take an apple.
Carrots or
Fling
pretzels.
this away.
Pretzels.
And someone likes that as a gift, and someone's like, and the person
I
buying
think pretzels
it,
are only good if you could dip them in something.
all the melted chocolate from all the other candy.
It's true. See, I'm not a sweet and salty. I'm like, I
Yeah.
want either or. Like, I want to have my salty snack, and then I want to finish with a sweet.
Yeah,
I don't mix them.
yeah,
Don't.
I get that.
I don't like that.
I'm also the same way. Sorry, I'll silence my phone. I'm the same way where I don't like Raisinets and popcorn. I'm either having
Yes.
snow caps and popcorn. I'm either having one or the other.
Yes. Well, I have my popcorn first, and then I finish off with my treat.
Mm-hmm.
I think one year we did. Chris dressed up as Captain America, and he has these like metallic American flag spandex pants, and I was Wonder Woman, and we were on rollerblades, and that was fun.
Yeah.
Because the kids are old enough, they could just take off, but we would go with them because we're going to drive, and I'm going to get some candy. I think my kids stopped trick or treating when they were 14. We hit a couple of houses, and then they're like, "Can we go to town? Can we go to the center of town?" Like Amherst every year has thousands and thousands of people show up on the green because they do. Some places, like if you live too far outside of the green or the common area, you can rent a door, and it's all on the green, and they decorate it and everything. So you have your little seats set up, and kids that come and open the door. It's really cute. But
What a great idea. Because when you come to New Hampshire, you're like, this is too far for kids to walk.
yeah,
Right?
it's so
it
spread out.
changes the dynamic of running around your neighborhood with your, E.T.
Yeah.
costume or your...
Right. So I was like, well, now they're taller than me, and I'm like, well, hey, I could just put on a mask and I could still trick or treat.
You could.
Chris is like, I'll take you. I'm like, well, that's not any fun.
Right. What do you say?
I need
Say
other-
thank you.
I
Say
know.
thank you. Just walk up, open your bag, and walk away. What do you say? You say thank you. I remember
Do you
there's
get any nips in there?
right adult.
Right.
Well, there are places we used to have. I think it's up by Newfound Lake. There was a little community, and they used to do Halloween in July because most of them would be gone over the
Oh, that would be fun.
over October. So everyone would get dressed up. One time, John and I did it, and we were Will Ferrell and Sherry O'Terry
Oh
as
my
the cheerleaders. That was what we did that year. And the parents we would have trays of shots for the parents, and then we would have candy for the kids.
That's cool.
And that was worth.
Yes, we found a neighborhood in Merrimack that was like that. At the end of the circle, like 2 little cul-de-sacs, parents have their table set up for at the end of their driveway, and they've got one for the kids, and then they got one for the like hot toddies and stuff for the adults. And I'm like, that was cool.
Yeah, that was fun. What else do we have going on?
I don't know. I'm glad we got some Florida sun.
Yeah.
We were not here last week because we were in Florida.
And this is how you know you have a really good friend. You say, hey, I need to go assess the hurricane damage at my place.
Wait, be clear, on Friday.
On Friday, I said, I need to go down and check out the hurricane damage of my place. Do you want to come to the disaster zone with me? I promise we'll have fun. And she says, what time are we leaving? And we left the following day.
Yes.
So that's a friend. And then I did try to make it fun. I did try to make disastering fun.
Oh my gosh, we had so much fun. Florida is, I've only been on, I was, for years, up until COVID, I was only on the Atlantic side, you know, Orlando, you know, Miami, all that whole area. It wasn't until until COVID that we had the Gulf of Mexico. It's got to be one of my favorite places in the whole world. And just to go down and see the devastation. One day we were driving to Sarasota, and along the highway, you didn't really notice it at first. It was just piles and piles and piles of stuff. And you're like, what is that? It's all the debris. They're putting it up. I mean, literally there was a mountain of mattresses. It must have been, I don't know, 1,000 mattresses. Like, just
they didn't have enough room at their landfill, so they made another landfill off the side of the highway.
Yes.
That they were just dumping all of everyone's belongings that had been underwater.
It must have stretched for almost a mile.
It was enormous, and then you just see a boat on a house.
Yes.
So some people really took a beating down there.
They
And
did, but everybody that we talked to was in such good spirits,
I know.
like such a sense of community. And, you know, Chris had asked me, he's like, is it devastating? Is it just is it depressing? And I was like, well, when we pulled in that night, it kind of looked like the apocalypse. Like there's nobody and there's nobody on the road. There's piles of sand, piles of trash. You just see devastation. I was like, wait, are we in the apocalypse?
Yeah.
Like, what's the best place? If we were in an apocalypse, where would be the best place?
Right.
I thought like The Walking Dead. I thought the prison was pretty good.
Yeah, because you want something protecting you from
Well, you've got the
marauders.
fence. You've got all these gates. You know,
Yeah.
it kind of makes it harder to get into. Like maybe
Or
that,
you can see who's coming and when they're coming and be protected. Like everyone takes a side.
yes,
So for protection purposes and from the zombies, obviously.
yes.
But yeah, and then when we were talking to people, it was amazing how people were thinking or were commenting that we'll get through this. We always do. They just had a completely different attitude than we get when we have 2 inches of snow.
Yes.
I feel,
Yes.
and then you get on the news and you hear people up here talking about, some disaster, and you're like, you need to go down and see what a disaster looks like, and then you come up and talk about, a little
Yeah.
wind or a
Yeah.
little snow or something.
But it amazing. Like there was one pool that was completely covered in sand.
Filled.
Yes,
Filled
filled
with
to the
pack.
brim.
Yep.
And by the end of the week, we're putting water in it.
Yep.
And there were more and more people coming out on the beach. Their birds were coming back. We must have saved, I don't know, 100 conchs.
Right, we did. We saved, and then we would talk to people who were walking on the beach, and they would say, "I threw 400 conchs back. I threw this many hundred live shells and mollusks and all kinds."
We
of
tried to
things.
save a bird.
We tried to save a bird who didn't want anything to do with us.
Well, he didn't, but I hoof it up there. It's hot.
So we see this bird with a broken leg, and he also looks like he's choking. He looks like he's calling out without noise. He's a seagull, and we know that. People just don't tend to like seagulls. But we were concerned, he was choking and he had this broken leg. So we were trying to get a hold of the bird sanctuary that's right on the beach to try to come and rescue him. And we couldn't get a hold of anyone. So Robyn walks a mile back to where the sanctuary is. They have no interest in saving the seagull.
Well, I interrupted them, and I was listening, and they're just talking about
Stuff.
nonsense stuff. I didn't interrupt a meeting or anything. I hoof it in there, and I'm like, oh, they have a bathroom. I'm going to go pee real quick. Oh, they have water.
I'm dying of thirst.
And then I just walk through the back, And I'm thinking, like, we're going to do a rescue. Like, we're going to get on our four-wheelers. It's like, what's the...
Reno 911.
No, I was thinking, like, Pamela Anderson, like, running down the beach.
Lifeguard Baywatch.
Baywatch. Like, Animal Baywatch. And I was like, he's going to ride on the... We're going to ride back in the four-wheeler. We're going to jump off. They're going to grab that seagull, and we're going to do a good thing. No, they were like, well, it's not a baby, and we can't really do anything about the leg. We'll have somebody down and check it out. And I was like, seriously?
Right.
Like, I'm living all this drama. Like, my adrenaline, my heart is beating. Like, oh, my God, please don't die. Please don't die. Let's save that bird. And
then I got close to the bird. Like, I would just, like a cat, I would move up an inch or two when it was facing the other, and then I'd stop. And I was doing this, and then we met some other people who were walking. They were like, is that whatever? And they come over, and the bird flies away. And then at one point, the bird just got sick of me making progress on almost capturing him. He knew, like, she's getting close. So he went and flew and landed in the water. Like, come out here and get me. And I was like, oh, I'm going to think about you all day, little buddy. I was trying to help.
well, so I was leaving them, and then there was this young kid, and this young guy, and he's coming around the corner, and we almost bump into each other, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry. And I'm like, oh, hey. I said, hey, I just was telling them, I said, there is a bird down on the beach that needs to be rescued. And he's like, sorry, I'm just the IT guy. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Well, I will say that they don't like to rescue seagulls. Seagulls are not the favorite bird of the bird family. You know, there's
Right.
birds that if a hawk goes down, an owl, people are, you know, this is very important. But seagulls, they're just like kind of jerks.
I know.
They don't like seagulls. My grandmother rescued a seagull with what we thought was a broken wing. And it's a big bird when you get it in a basement. An Italian woman's basement.
It's like an albatross.
It is enormous, right? And probably at the time, the wingspan was almost I'm probably 12. The wingspan is almost my arm span.
Oh, my gosh.
And he's down there and everything's, you know, he's damaged. And my grandmother's trying to find someone who wants to take this bird. And they're like, we don't take seagulls. Let it die. And my grandmother's not going to let it die.
Right.
And then one day we come down and it's flying. So the broken wing has healed enough that he can, you know,
What
take
were you
air.
guys feeding it?
So I rescued birds when they would fall out of nests, and this is cannibalistic, but I used to feed them scrambled eggs. When
Well, it's not
when you're
there.
holding
It's-
a bit, yeah, when you because I could shove the protein into an eyedropper, and I would be able to, because they get fed bugs
yeah.
and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Not seagulls. Seagulls eat clams and everything else. And God knows what my grandmother was feeding it. But when I save birds, I often do scrambled eggs in an eyedropper when they're babies.
That's a good idea.
Babies. A vet told me that once because I tried to bring a baby bird to a vet tech. I had a tenant who was a vet tech. And she's like, yeah, we're not going to do anything. But if you want to try to keep it alive, feed it scrambled eggs. And she showed me the technique. And then everybody was like, oh, my God, she kept it alive.
Do you
and
make
now
it
it needs
runny?
a cage.
Or do
Yeah.
you just have like a bigger opening?
It's kind of a little bit of an opening, but you cook it so that it's firm enough but soft enough that you can manhandle it. You don't want big curds. And I did. And
No
then
big
her
curds.
boyfriend had to build me a cage for it until I would take it out every day, and it would love my rings. It would
Aw.
always be really attracted to my rings, and I would take it and we would walk in my neighborhood. And then one day it saw sparrows. It was a sparrow. This was the first one. It was a sparrow, and all the sparrows are lined up on the electrical lines, like the phone lines
Yeah.
and everything. And so it looked at me, looked at that, looked at me, looked at them, looked at me. They took off, and then he or she took off with them, and I was like, "You're back, reunited with your people." And that was the beginning of my saving things and actually saving them.
That's awesome. When I lived on the Cape, I saved a little baby bird. Well, the car in front of me, it hit it, and you could just see it kind of fall to the side, and it was still. So I went back. I kind of just pushed it off the side of the road a little bit because I'm like, I'm not going to carry it. Ran home, got a shoebox with a little blanket in it, and I didn't know what else to do. Got some leaves and stuff.
So babies need to be
Scooped it up.
warm. And sometimes you can do the hot water bottle technique underneath the blanket
yeah.
because they sometimes die just because of the cold, because normally something's sitting on them.
Right.
Their mothers and dads and brothers and sisters, they have that insulated warmth, so you can do a hot water bottle. A electric blanket can be too hot.
Yeah.
The electric pad that you put can be too warm, but a hot water bottle kind of keeps them.
That's a good idea.
But go ahead with your story.
I found a wildlife rescue place to drop it off, and it was pretty cool. She called me a couple weeks later and had said that the baby made it, and they're, it's nursed back to health, and they're getting ready to release it. And if we wanted to come down, so I took the kids down when they were getting ready to release it, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. That's
That was
sweet.
neat.
Yeah. I've saved squirrels. I've saved all kinds of things.
They had a baby orca that washed up on the shore one time, and we
wow.
did go down and see that. That was pretty cool. That was over in
Wow.
oh, what's that? It's not Plymouth. It's I have to think about it.
So up here.
No, it was on the Cape.
Okay.
It was Falmouth. It's that over on that side when you go over the bridge, and then you're on the mainland again. I'll have to look it up.
Okay.
The people that I was a nanny for, their in-laws lived over there, and so we would go over there, and I'm like, oh, I know exactly where that is.
Well, I don't know why I don't think of orcas here. I always think of orcas in Alaska.
Yeah, I know.
I just picture them up there next to an iceberg.
Well, I've never seen, seen another. I've never seen one, but it was a baby. I mean, it was bigger,
Than a car.
Yes.
Bigger than a
Yes.
Nissan Altima.
Yes. I love seeing animals. We went to San Diego, and the seals were giving birth. So they have volunteers that will come and sit down on the beach just to kind of watch and make sure, people don't mess with them, and, everything is fine. She said sometimes that they do intervene if they have a difficult labor. They have like a some places have a medical squad. I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But it was neat. My kids were like 3 at the time, and you could look down over the wall because they have steps that go down, and there's these little tiny beach areas like so far along the wall. I thought that was kind of neat too.
My big guy was driving out to one of his sites in Western Mass, and there was a cow giving birth, and there was just a cow dangling. And I think he said he watched it for 20 minutes, and he's like, I'm in a suit. Because I said, did you help? Did you pull it out the last little bit? She's probably like, get this out,
Yeah.
He goes, it did finally fall. But I watched it for 20 minutes. He's like, I'm in a suit. What am I going to do with this cow?
What if she just swung around and it just whipped it,
Well, that's the thing is she was doing
Like a
this
hip bump.
movement like she was, shaking her tail a little bit to kind of move this poor calf. I'm like, oh, my God. Birth is so traumatic. Birthing
it
is
really
so traumatic.
is. I think goats and sheep have a difficult labors too.
Everything
a
does,
neighbor.
kinda, right?
True.
That's not fun for anybody, I don't think. I saw my cousin give birth to my first godchild, and I remember thinking, I'm too young to have witnessed that from this end. I should have not known what was happening. I should have stayed up,
You're like, no.
But now I know.
It's one of the things that the adults tell you, like, you don't want to see this, you don't want to see this, you don't want to see this.
Well, Alien traumatized me for a while because it burst through the chest, and you're talking about, it grows inside you, and then you're like an alien? This little baby grows inside me like an alien? This is gross.
Bust out. It does kind of look like an alien in there, in your belly, late term, and they can see them moving around, and it is a little freaky.
Yeah, it
And
is
sometimes
freaky.
you can't really feel it, but you can see it, and you're like, wow.
Yeah, when the whole stomach moves, or like a foot comes out.
Yeah.
The baby foot pad comes
All of a
out.
sudden, you got like, you're all over here. And you're like, hey.
Settle down
Right.
in there. You're
Simmer
listening.
down.
You're listening to Lisa and Robyn on the mic on WSMN 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. You can watch, stream, and listen Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, WSMN.live. I wanted to tell you that I heard this great statistic that bookstores this year are on tap to make double what they made last year.
Really?
So they went around interviewing and finding out that bookstores are literally doubling their revenue from last year. And in COVID, they had a huge uptick as well. And they weren't quite sure why people are reading again. They weren't sure if social media is making them read by like those Bookstagram pages and all of that stuff, and people talking about that, or if because a lot of series have made books into movies so then
and now they're
people
like,
revert back, or they thought people might be getting bored with social media and they just need another,
what a
just
novel
something,
idea.
something more tangible and something more imaginative. because social media is boring. And I thought it's really interesting that they use this algorithm. They keep altering the algorithm. And they use this algorithm, but all it's doing is rewarding people for doing the same thing instead of new things.
Right. What? Yeah.
And I think if you are using social media to share with your friends and family that's not local, but and this is how you do this, or you're trying to, use it as another component to business marketing or whatever, but we're all small television producers.
That's true.
We have no training.
We're all content creators.
We're all content creators. And before, someone used to pay to have content created. Now we are free cameraman. We're free editing. We're the writer. We're the videographer. We are the ones with our time and energy creating content so that Facebook and Instagram and TikTok can take ad revenue,
can actually make money
to insert ads in our content.
Right.
Where before it would be they would have to pay to get on television.
Right.
They would have to
pay. So we're giving them a platform. They're giving us a platform to help them.
Right. And we're giving them content to then feed ads through. And I wonder if people are just tired of it. You see those memes of people, especially realtors, oh, now I have to be a content creator. I thought I was supposed to sell real estate. Or any profession sort of feels that way. Though, I do facials. Now I also have to run a television channel. Right. Yes. And maybe this is just one too many things on my list of things to do. And how much business am I really getting from it?
I know. Even now, it seems like the ads have bumped up a lot lately. I was trying to go back and find a post that I saw it and I was like, oh, I want to read that. And then and I couldn't remember who it was, but I was like, I had started reading it and went back and I'm like scrolling down. I must have closed out of sponsored ads, 10 of them on my page. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. So it's they're making more money than ever, but I wonder if the uptick in ads is also what's making people bored. I wonder what's taking people from changing habitually scrolling
from an electronics to a book
to go back when this is so appealing. It's catered to
So did they say what books were being what was the?
They said that Waterstones doubled literally 100% doubled their income in gross revenue.
Wow.
So whatever they made in 2023, it is October.
But is there a genre? Is it personal development? Is it nonfiction? Is it classics? Or
they didn't break it down.
I'd be curious to see what are people reading?
Yeah. But I thought I'm a book lover, and even libraries were commenting on the page because I was like, what are people saying about that? Why people are going back? But it is even libraries said we're seeing people check books out more. And I imagine the more the economy gets bad, the more you go to a library than a bookstore.
Right.
But if bookstores are doubling their profits, which makes me happy, I love bookstores.
Yes.
I hate when they were all closing.
Yeah. You could just stay in there for hours.
To me, a bookstore is a church to me.
Yeah.
When I don't feel well, the way people go to church, I go into a bookstore.
Yeah.
And I all of a sudden feel better.
It's like therapy.
Yeah, it's like a church to me. I'm like, okay. You have all your sections. No one ever kicks you out. You can be in a bookstore for 4 hours. No one's like, that's enough time in this business without buying anything.
You can get lunch delivered.
Yeah, you can go in their cafe and have a coffee. You can just wander. They have seats. You can sit down.
Yeah.
Open a book and read it, and no one says, hey, don't read that book.
Yeah.
It's just the most magical place. There's no alcoholic trolls governing the front doors or anything weird that you have to buy some bouncer or anything. This is just this, you can go through. If you were cold, you could go in and sit in a bookstore in the middle of winter for 8 hours and no one's going to be like, that's enough of you in here. Imagine being
I
that
wonder
welcomed.
if I could go in and start reading some children's books and just create my own story time.
I bet you could.
I used to love reading to the kids. We had my kids love books. They will still plow through a written book. Now they have the Kindle, which just makes it a little bit easier when you're traveling. So they'll download. And they also listen to audiobooks too. But
I really like an audiobook. I really like a good audiobook as well.
I like when the reader is good, because sometimes you can have a not so great story, but if the storyteller,
Well, if the voice is good and they're
Yes.
doing a good job. One of my favorite audiobooks of all time has to be, I'm going to look it up because I love it so much I can't remember the name of it. I can remember the name of the one that I didn't like as much, and that's why.
One of my favorite ones was Everest. Just listening to it in the car, driving down at night, and the reader does such a good job about putting inflection, the tension, the suspense. He makes you feel the words, and that's what I like. A good storyteller makes you feel the words instead of just read them.
And I also think that when you get lost in them telling you that you are just, it's almost like when you sit around a campfire and someone's telling a great story, you just get lost into their story, where if you can hear the words, you're not necessarily lost in the story because the words are, it's a different flow.
Yes.
So Max Brooks wrote World War Z, which was the zombie movie that they made into a movie. And I'm trying to find the name of the book. Devolution is the name of the book. So he has a cast of people, and it's about Sasquatch in the Pacific Northwest, and a community of people who have just had enough, this hippie commune of people who have just enough of California, and they go up to the Pacific Northwest, and they live in this commune-type place, and they come across Sasquatch. But something happens to this community, and they don't know what it is, and they find this woman's journal or her diary, and they don't know if she lives or dies. But there's a cast of characters, so everyone's voice is completely different. So it's not one person trying to have 6 different character voices.
Yes.
And it's a if you've never, or if you think you don't like audiobooks, Audible will give you one for free. You can get them from the library for free. Devolution
I
is
also
a
think
fantastic
that you have
book.
Amazon Prime. I think you get free audiobooks too on Audible.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
So but that made me think of something that I actually wrote a long time ago. And it's just a question. What would you do if nobody was watching? So because when we have social media, and when you're on social media, I know people who are not on social media and they're just living their life. Where when you're on social media, there's a guy, he was a writer, and he said, my runs no longer are me running with my dog. My runs are now making sure I capture content of me running with my dog. So instead of just admiring the beautiful run in this canyon, now I'm looking for photo opportunities. This constant creative making part of my brain that knows that I have this job to do of posting about my life. So I wanted to take that idea of, okay, nobody's watching. Nobody's watching.
Yeah, who would you be?
What would you do, and who would you be? Would you try something new that's not popular? Would you be, it's so much more difficult to fail in a public forum. That's why I think it must be terrible to be a teenager now. Whatever you're doing, relationships, you post you and your boyfriend, and then you and your boyfriend aren't your boyfriend.
I know.
3 months from now,
then you got to delete all the pictures.
Do you delete the pictures, or do you put them up?
Right.
Do you leave them up as that's part of the story, or do you? Because when we were teenagers, we would rip up people's pictures.
Yes.
We would take, if we had an actual picture, you would rip people out. You would cut out their face with an X-Acto knife, or put horns on it.
Sharpie them. Yes.
Like kids today miss that.
Right.
That opportunity.
Right. Can't get that back.
Just like hanging up the phone, slamming down a phone when you were mad had such a visceral, satisfying, I am hanging up on you now. You're like,
I know. You can't, you can even you can hurt your thumb trying to, push that red button.
Not as satisfying.
It's not.
So
I wonder how many people throw their phone just to get that satisfaction.
Right. You're throwing $1,000 against the wall.
Right. And you're like, I didn't want to do that.
Yeah, pick it up. Sorry.
Well, it's it goes back to what we were talking about the last time we were on. you bring who you are to everything that you do. I might not have said that right, but it's true. I didn't look at it from the perspective of, if no one were watching, would you take a bigger chance on yourself? Instead of saying, I'm not going to lie about drinking. I'm not going to lie that I'm a turd, behind closed doors. I was thinking about it from that perspective of,
Because when we were posting pictures of us in Florida, we did not specifically post the pictures of everyone's piles of stuff.
Right.
But I almost felt like it was disrespectful to do that in a way.
Yeah.
I almost felt like doing something off of somebody else's pain.
Yeah. I deleted a lot of, I was going through, I'm like, well, we have a lot of duplicates, but I use my social media. I mean, of course I want to be a content creator because we're trying to brand ourselves and push it out there, but I
find it exhausting.
Yes.
The idea of it is exhausting because something that I think would take off gets crickets.
Yeah.
And then other things that I'm surprised, like, wow, we got that much traction on something that was so simple that took no thought. It was like, oh, just put this is funny and just post it.
Right. And no hashtags or anything like that. And what's funny is, you're trying to break it down. Like, for whatever reason, Instagram does not like me. I posted a video, which I thought was really cute.
We post the same thing on Instagram and TikTok, and it will get 1,000 views
on TikTok, and I got
on Instagram and like 25 on
14.
So it's interesting, and I blame that on this algorithm. And there was this one yoga teacher that I follow, and she had 225,000 followers.
Wow!
And since the algorithm, she's gone down to 212,000.
Wow!
And so she was like pleading to on the page, I don't know what's happening to my algorithm. I don't know where all my followers are going. And I thought, wow, you're not still talking to your 212. You're still begging the ones that were lost. So that feeling that she actually lost something.
Right. Well, see, some of it, you look at those things and, a lot of people pay for followers.
That's true.
And so they're bots. There's somebody on the WhatsApp that's getting paid a couple of dollars to, say that they're a real human being and, to add to your numbers.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is, even if you have 5,000, I saw a pie chart once, and it says, like, if you have 5,000 followers, realistically, you're going to get like maybe 800 to 900 people that are actually going to see it of those 5,000. So what they push it out to, and I don't know. It kind of gets old, and I'm like, you're playing this game. You're playing this game for them. And like,
well, it feels like gambling.
Yeah.
Why is the house winning?
Right.
Why am I putting this much effort into the house winning?
Right. Right. So I'm like, I just go, I went over to TikTok, and I'm like, it literally within a half an hour had 840 some views. And Instagram, it's like, 4 people saw it.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. I'm not paying for your, I'm not going to pay for it.
Yeah. And we don't do any of that either.
You haven't given me a reason to buy into you.
Right. Right.
So that's how I feel about that.
Yeah,
but
so I was thinking with that it must be paralyzing if you are spending a lot of time thinking, will this meet approval or acceptance from a larger group of people? And because we're doing that on social media more and more, whether we're going to post something or not post something, does it bleed over into our lives? Are we making the choices and the decisions we want to make, irregardless of if anyone is going to like it or heart it?
Right. Well, I think at the end of the day, and we all get caught in, I think we all get caught into the reason why we don't do things. We're the only person that's standing in our way. We're the only persons that can truly give us permission or not give us permission.
Mm-hmm.
And we're our biggest barrier. We're our biggest roadblock. So kind of ties into, we spend so much time trying to think what other people are going to think about us instead of just being, what would serve me? What do I want? What would nourish me? How do I want to live? Who do I want to surround myself with? What kind of wife do I want to be? What kind of husband do I want to be? What kind of mom do I want to be? What kind of friend do I want to be? Instead of thinking, you're trying to meet, when you meet new people, and I feel like, just if you're going to be you, then the right people are going to find you.
And if you're not really truly yourself when you meet people, and sometimes it's setting dependent, a professional environment versus a party, for example.
Right.
You would have, a professional environment, you have a certain lens that you are filtering things through, where you're not actually allowed to be yourself too much, I don't think.
Well, it depends on what part of yourself, your intimate self, and show that, showing up in a professional setting. I still believe that you can still be you.
Yeah.
It's just that you might be a little bit more reserved. But I'm not going to put on a false pretense for, I'm not going to put on a false pretense. It's just the information that you share would be different.
Yeah. I have such a sarcastic side to me that I have to really pull that, rein that in because, what you want to, what sometimes the part of you that's like, I would get my point across this way in a really sarcastic way, but that's so unprofessional.
Right.
I have to
Right.
put this down into language that is not going to have the same impact, but it's going to be the proper thing in this type of environment.
Well, I think it's deciding. I think when you truly are trying to be you,
yeah,
of course you're going to put your professional face on, and you're going to do what you think, but you don't walk out of there and feel like, oh, I'm taking off my mask,
No.
Yeah.
Because it would be exhausting to be a whole nother human being, would be exhausting, I think.
But I think a lot of people do. I think a lot of people are that way.
But do you think it's because they don't know really who they are, so they're just trying to put on something for approval, or because they feel like...
What if they're just afraid to be who them or explore who they are? I love the red rag. Your eyes are like so beautiful, and I was like, wow, that ginger is like.
I will tell you that one time I paid to color my hair blonde, and I came out pretty close to this color, and I was like, oh no.
Yes.
And they were like, oh, whatever. I'm like, this is.
I did that to myself,
Did you do this to
except I was just trying to do my roots, so I had that carrot stripe.
So this to me is like. On Seinfeld, George's parents.
Oh.
They both have the same exact color hair.
Yes.
And that's this color.
Yes.
And that's what I said in the hairdresser chair. I said I look like George Costanza's mother. Change it back or tone it or whatever you need to do it. And she's like, let it, sit with it and see how it looks. And I came back like 3 days later, fix this. And then that's when I went really brown, because the only thing she could do to fix this color was brown, like a really dark brown. And then I was like, oh, great. Now I have almost black hair.
Yay.
I'm glad I paid $300 and something for it.
Oh, thank you
but
very much.
it's good in a wig that you can take off.
Yes. I love it. Love it.
And I'm just
love
gonna
it.
play with it.
Yeah, that was my neurodivergent brain taken off.
Oh, let's speak of neurodivergence. What do we have? I can't tell.
I have
the time.
10:53.
10:53. Okay. I found this great YouTube page about finding out your neurodivergent, which is an ADD or an ADHD, and coming to it as a 50-something-year-old woman. And I love this page because one of the things she talked about, which I don't think anybody talks about, is when you're going through the M word, which we know I don't like that word, advanced maternal age M word. When you're going
Hot
through
flashes,
right, when you're
sweats.
going through that, you have a drop in estrogen that actually does take the clarity out of your brain. Now, if you had any kind of temperament of having a lot of tabs open, like we always say, or rapid fire digressions where you can have 3 different things in your at the same time, just holding all these different things, the drop in estrogen really exacerbates it. So, because I was thinking the way she said these symptoms, no one has ever diagnosed me with ADD or ADHD, and now here I am self-diagnosing myself from this channel.
Right.
But one of the things I love about it is she talks about how you can have compensatory ways to still get accomplished what you need to get accomplished, and why you are feeling so much overwhelm or why you are procrastinating so much. And it's just fascinating because back in the day, we were very linear. You know, we worked in factories, farming. We had this very linear things. We did the same exact thing all of the time. And kind of going back into a content producer, if you have a linear brain in your job as engineering or whatever, and all of a sudden you have to come up with all of this different content for a social media page,
It can shut you down.
it must feel overwhelmingly
Chaotic.
like I wouldn't know what the first place to start.
Yeah.
And then there are people who were creative by nature. We're always looking for that's part of the reason why I don't do good in linear jobs. Because I get bored. So even in filing,
It's like routine, rote. Same thing over and over.
I actually get the urge to run away. So, and I have a friend who she said it perfectly. The amount of time it takes me to unload the dishwasher, I have so much anxiety about standing in one spot to unload the dishwasher because I find it so horrifically boring to unload the dishwasher. And I feel that way exactly. Sometimes I'll undo the top rack and then go do something else and then do the bottom rack because
Yes.
it's just, I've done this 100,000 times.
I feel like that with laundry.
And I feel that way with laundry. So even filing, I remember part of my job when I was 16, 17 was to file. And I would save it all to the end. And then I would have to make a game with myself. How quickly could I do? So what I would do is I would do like A through F. I would do it in sections because I couldn't just sit there and file. I was like, kill me now.
Yes, you have to make a game about it.
Yes.
I did filing in high school for a doctor's office, and gosh, you'd see the charts, and it's just like you couldn't even carry them all. And some of those charts are like, you know, an encyclopedia volume, like huge. And couldn't do it, and I'm like, man, this is just.
And so that boring, repetitive sameness is, I actually get a feeling in my body like, get up and leave.
Yes.
Stop doing this immediately. And so much of life has that administrative component to it that you have to do these really boring things. And I had put up that little meme of that little girl when the mother says, aren't you supposed to be cleaning your room? And she goes, I'm too fun to do boring things. And I was like, oh my God, honey, come with me. We are both too fun to be doing
You're my
boring
kindred
things.
spirit.
There she is.
Well, so unloading the dishwasher. So I always put the silverware, like the knives have their own section, the forks have their own section, and the spoons have their own sections.
I can't even hear you. I can't even hear you.
Because it makes it when you open it to take it out, all I have to do is just grab this and put it right there.
The loading the
grab
dishwasher is more boring than loading it.
I do hate loading it. But if I'm going, because I have to do it, so I don't mind doing the silverware and I don't mind doing the plates. Because you can just stack all the plates and you just do it in one time and it's done. It's the glasses, it's the dipping bowls, it's the spatulas, all that stuff. I don't like it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you think that you finally got it done and then you open that little tiny thin drawer at the top and you're like, oh my God.
But wait, one of the cool things was she gives you tips on stuff to do. And I have to do something that's really horrific, horrifically boring. Not horrific, actually. So I had to add that actually. Mundane, menial, data entry, sit still. Sit still. That's part of that. And that's one of the things when people are telling you to do a job, they should actually evaluate in school how neurodivergent your brain is.
Yes. Yeah, I do.
I think we do these standardized tests. You should be like, do you get energy from moving around? So when I'm required to sit on the phone, I have to move because I'm getting energy from the conversation.
Yes.
And I'm also having to, I think more clearly actually physically when I'm walking.
Me too. When I'm moving,
if I have to sit still, I almost feel like my brain is clamped down for a thought process.
You're
I can't
suffocating. That's how I feel like my brain is suffocating. Well, so Chris, a couple of years ago, Chris was like, I want you to come to work in the office. And I'm like, okay, I'll come do I'll give it a roll. I'll give it a twirl. And he's like, do you know how to use Excel? I'm like, what?
No.
What's Excel? He's like, oh boy. He's like, do you know how to use Microsoft Word? I'm like, no. He's like, well, how would you how do you do documents? I'm like, I've never done it. I have to do a document. I've never been in a profession where I've had to use either one of those. And he's like, well, I don't have time to teach you, but why don't you sit down on YouTube? And I'm like, I never go to YouTube. I would rather read instructions. I would rather read the janky Chinese instructions that I can't figure out and get frustrated than having to sit and watch somebody tell me, because they give you a lot of words instead of like, hey, put the screw in here, turn it to the right, do this, blah, blah, blah. And they have to give you their history behind it.
And they
have
have to
give
tell you
a
to
story.
subscribe to the channel and everything else. And you're like, oh.
Yes, and then I have to listen to their neurodivergent brain, go down another rabbit hole. And I'm like, no, I can just get it done faster if I can read it. But then, so sitting there, so I tried it. I was trying to watch this video, and then I was going over into the other screen, and they're like, I don't know what it was, like copy and paste, and you use like line A and line B and all that stuff. And then I got messed up, and I'm like, how do you go back? So then I had to go watch the thing again, and literally he walks in, and I just busted out into tears. I'm like, I'm not cut out for this.
And to me, my God, do I love an Excel spreadsheet. Even though, because you can organize the information 100 different ways. Once you get and that's part of like, I have to do this task that requires everything be in this spreadsheet. But right now it's not on a spreadsheet.
Right.
That's the part that's like, I'm going to have to sit for an hour and a half and just enter.
So see, some of it, if I know where it's going, I like organizing and putting things in, so I can go very detailed and like, ooh, I'm going to organize it this way. Yep. We'll be back.
So you're listening to Lisa and Robyn on the mic on WSMN 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. You can watch, stream, or listen on WSMN.live. We are going to the top of the hour, and we come back. We are going to dive into our neurodivergent brains. Stay tuned.